Dystopia warning, obviously. What you're seeing here is the disturbing real-life footage of tiny little Tommy 10 names being taken away by the police and sent to prison for 18 months today. Oh no, how sad. However, due to the problems that we're currently facing in our prison system, he's being forced to toil with 6 other lads for a woman that is aptly named Snow White. Really don't think that's going to help the de-radicalisation process, but then no prisons do. Not just that, but they took away his car. Shout out to the court artist though for perfectly articulating just how square his head is. And there's little Tommy sitting on his booster seat, taking his from the British justice system. His supporters aren't taking it very well, and I'm loving it. There's a lot of weird far-right AI art knocking about. It's very, very heavily lion-based, which isn't particularly fair because the lions didn't ask to be a part of this, did they? But can you imagine being a mug like that? Giving your universal credit payments to Tommy, because you're doing it for Britain, as he's begging for money from his radicalised followers, only for him to immediately plead guilty and fold like a cheap child's deck chair. Or worse, you could be sitting in a cell, for a couple of years as a consequence of following the lead of a guy who tweeted from a 5-star resort in Cyprus after fleeing Britain. A 5-star resort that you paid for, perhaps. Is it sinking in yet? A hello to those that have followed me in recent days because they've really enjoyed me taking the piss out of that weird little lemming. Now, as much as I enjoy doing that, I also like imparting knowledge. Broadly, the far right in any description is the enemy of Britain, of sense, and of general intelligence. Unfortunately, thanks to his arrest, I'm not going to have to see that ham lad for a while. Especially not when he is facing further charges on the 13th of November relating to terror offences for not handing over the PIN to his phone because he thinks he's a journalist. Shall I tell you what is journalism? What I'm about to share with you, which is the reason why that daft racist has got banged up. Because there's people like this going around going, watch Tommy's film, watch his documentary. No. And why won't I watch it? Because it's based on false, libelous information. So this is the reason why little Tommy 10 names ended up facing an 18-month stretch in prison. If you've got any particularly thick radicalised people in your family who thinks that Fanny is a credible journalist or standing up for Britain, get them to watch this video. Although bear in mind that they might have a bad reaction because they're very likely allergic to facts. So, why is little Tommy 10 names in prison? I'll tell you. In July of 2024, Stephen Jackson screened his banned film, Silenced, fucking wish he was, in Trafalgar Square to thousands of idiots. Violence obviously ensued. There were 9 arrests. Now that film was made by Tommy Robinson to support his defamatory, libelous, false claims against a Syrian refugee child, Jamal Hijazi. Robinson claimed that Jamal had been violently attacking female classmates and had threatened to stab another schoolboy, right? Based on disproven claims by a boy called Bailey McLaren. Bailey was filmed waterboarding Jamal. Now, his family have a history of racist far-right activism. Now, it's very important for me to point out, mostly for legal reasons, that the accusations of far-right activism directed towards Bailey McLaren's family were reported by Tortoise. They stated that his family was known by some locals as allegedly being notoriously far-right. His mother had allegedly called a fish and chip shop owner the P-slur, and his older brother Reese was convicted of violent disorder at a 2015 Britain First rally, clashing with a group of Asian men. That might possibly offer some context about how reliable the sources that Robinson was using in his documentary were, and might give you a bit of an inkling into why Bailey might have felt it was acceptable to waterboard a child refugee. Hijazi sued Robinson for libel, a case that Robinson lost 3 years ago, and Robinson was warned that he would be jailed if he continued to repeat the libelous claims against the boy. Now, Robinson wrote online in relation to the weird film that he used to try and justify his harassment and bigotry of a kid. I'll be jailed for 2 years for showing the inconceivable truth. If only his mum hadn't been able to conceive, you know. If only she just had a wank. Anyway, it wasn't the truth. It was disproven. It was lies. It was harassment, as proven by a British court. A few days after Silenced was shown in Trafalgar Square, the Southport attack happened, didn't it? 3 young girls had their lives taken by a violent criminal. Hideous and enraging, obviously, that attack. Now, on the day of that attack, Robinson fled Britain to avoid a contempt of court hearing regarding repeating the libelous claims. On his way out, he was interrogated under the Terrorism Act, but inexplicably let go. So he could just mooch around 5-star resorts in Europe on the money that the mugs give him. From that 5-star resort, he started whipping up the anger, didn't he? Spreading disinformation, very anti-Muslim rhetoric, including tweets about the origin or the nationality of the Southport attacker. He riled up his willing group of knuckle-draggers, who then decided to travel to Southport, a community of good people rocked by a heinous crime, who then had to endure a night of unprecedented violence and unrest and have their town smashed up, just streets away from the appalling crime they'd suffered. They had to deal with Robinson's lot turning up, coked up with boxes of beer, being violent and attacking the police and the emergency services, who had probably just a few hours earlier had to see the unimaginable. And then in stepped village idiot Elon Musk, who questioned Robinson's arrest from his mad space-themed ketamine ranch in America with absolutely no understanding of the British far right, or probably who Robinson is, or probably what day of the week it is, frankly. He then amplified Robinson, causing the banned libelous documentary to get 33 million plus views on Twitter. Consequently, it was seen up to 1.2 billion times. When it is based on lies and disinformation, it's essentially Tommy Robinson trying to self-promote, trying to get in the cash donations and trying to stay relevant because that's how he makes his money. Musk also amplified other far-right influencers and promoted disinformation, which probably contributed to the unrest in Britain massively. He also criticised Keir Starmer and said that civil war is inevitable. At that point, the new Labour government had only been in power a matter of weeks, and they had to return from recess to work around the clock to deal with a country that was facing widespread civil unrest, whipped up by conspiracy theorists, grifters, liars, con artists like Farage, Andrew Tate, Musk, Robinson. Now, I'm sure there's a lot that people can criticise the new Labour government for, but their handling of these riots is not one of them. Freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences. We have hate speech laws. Yeah, there are protected characteristics in this country. And if people don't want to abide by British laws, they should just leave. Musk also started questioning Keir Starmer's support of Muslim communities, saying, why aren't you supporting all communities? Because mosques were being targeted. Because people that were not white were facing random attacks. There were even little scroats directing traffic according to skin colour, only letting the white cars through. Now, little Tommy thinks he's a patriot, does he? I'll tell you who the real patriots are. The good people of Southport and other communities who went out and tidied up the mess caused by his knuckle-draggers. This is the truth about why Robinson today admitted the contempt charges he's been accused of, because he knew he was banged to rights. And he knew that as he was setting up the GoFundMe page to get more money from people. It's never too late to admit that you've been conned. It's never too late to see idiots like that for what they are. And the sooner that people realise that people like that are the enemy of this country, the sooner we can get back some semblance of normality. He deserves to be in prison. I expect he's going to be there a lot longer than 18 months. Fucking brilliant. Now, one of the things that makes me the most angry about little Tommy running around calling himself Silenced and calling himself a journalist is that there are real journalists, real credible investigative journalists that have uncovered, I don't know, Russian interference in Brexit, like the amazing Carol Cadwallader, who was sued by Aaron Banks for libel after he pored over all of her social media for asking questions about Russia and Vote Leave, to which Aaron Banks contributed a vast sum of money. What he was essentially doing was laying a slap on her. In legal terms, that means a shut up and go away, or I'm going to intimidate you with my wealth kind of thing. Despite documents seen by The Observer stating that Aaron Banks had allegedly had multiple meetings between 2015 and 2017 with Russian officials. Now, because my interest is in the right, dark money, and people that are traitors to this country, I'm going to be looking into all of this now that Pork Boy has been put away, including the questions that Nigel Farage specifically needs to answer about Russia, especially as he's all cosy with Bannon and Trump and Musk. This is a network that wants chaos and disorder and doesn't want Britain to prosper. And people need to talk about it.